Welcome to the day 4 of AICT IST sponsored 6 days online induction program on Internet of Things in Manufacturing. Today, we have two seven
Your
I
audio is
request
not
all the
clear.
other
Your
participants to kindly mute
voice is not
yourself.
clear.
Yes, sir. There is a problem with the internet bandwidth, it seems, sir. Now, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, welcome to the day 4 of AICT IST sponsored 6 days online induction program on Internet of Things in Manufacturing. Today we have there is a small change in the schedule. Actually, as per the previous schedule, we supposed to have a session by Dr. Sarvesh sir, but due to some unavoidable circumstances, he is not in a position to deliver his content. So instead of him, we have today along with us in the morning session, that is the day one, Mr. Akashdeep Havaldar, founder of www.think Shiksha, who is going to deliver a session on deep analysis, a case study. So I request Dr. M. Lavanya Garu to guest. Ma'am, over to you, ma'am.
Okay, sir. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce the guest of today's induction program, Sri Akashdeep Howladar, Portfolio Manager, Howladar Holdings, and founder of www.think.shiksha. He did his MSc in Electronic Systems Design Engineering from Coventry University, UK. He occupied several prestigious positions such as Risk Practitioner, LG Co Lab, INSK E Statsburg, France, Patent Analyst, Traffic Consulting Limited, VLSI Verification Authority at Design KOP Labs, Noida. He presented a research paper on analyzing complex engineering situations through problem graph at Swiss Future Conference, Bergamo, Italy, 2011. He got an international publication with P. Shankal et al. On infrared-based tomography device for finger fracture detection in Indian patent application, December 2015. His interests include valuing, mentoring Indian startups and unlisted business, leveraging artificial intelligence for improved portfolio holding strategies, incorporating G Suite for business process automation and book publishing and creativity workshop facilitation using digital whiteboard tools. Sir, we are very happy to have you in our midst today as guest for the induction program. On behalf of St. Martin's Engineering College team, I extend my warm welcome to you, sir. Now, I request our chief guest to continue the program. Sir?
Yes. Okay. I will start sharing the screen now. Thank you, ma'am, for your kind introduction. Is the slide visible? Kindly confirm.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, great. So I would like to thank St. Martin's Engineering College, AICTE, ISTE for coming together and having this incredible industrial manufacturing centric FDP program. And warm welcome to all the Professor Garus. And without further ado, let me get into the discussion for today. At any point, if you cannot hear me or see anything, please tell me. So we have learned from Krunal sir that there's a lot of options that we have to take decisions. Rule-based, data-based. We can put them into large categories. Now in the rule-based, it's the application of if-then statements, and generally we see that there are limited number of variables. So in a for loop, you can iterate over one variable at a time. Similarly, you may nest several loops, into your decision making. However, if the number of features or variables or inputs that you want to use for your decision making increases, then it becomes necessary to adopt evidence-based systems and database systems. So there are two broad ways to look at database systems. So traditional statisticians have come up with so many tools which require feature engineering. Feature engineering is the uh, acumen or judgment that the statistician applies to take call on whether a certain machine learning algorithm or a statistical algorithm is overfitting or is it delivering goodness of fit, or whether to change the tools, the variables, the features. So the feature selection is done by a human. And in the case of neural networks, we can select the algorithm that will do the training of the neural network. But inside the neural network, what features are being adopted by which layer and which node inside each hidden layer, it is a black box. So this is one of the simple ways to look at it. Positives of one are the negatives of the other. In the case of deep learning, what happens is that you need to offer a humongous data set. Whereas in the case of evidence-based learning, or let's say the traditional data analytics, data science domain, the data set is less because you as the human are using your judgment to select which of the features from these limited data sets you want to train and make the prediction from. So that is one of the differences, data set size. Second is that computational hardware requirement. This is a threshold which stops a lot of people from practicing or entering into or deploying the deep learning model into their own workflow. To come out of this, there are so many tools now. So for one example is Google's Colab, where you have seen a little bit of this in Ramaya sir's explanation also. So using that, we can do it online. But if you want your neural network to work offline, then you have to invest in specific hardware for that. Moving forward, so generally the most amount of literature is either into these two buckets. It is either neural networks and deep learning, or it is data analytics and using human judgment to make use of which variables, that is feature engineering. Okay, so one of the breakthrough papers where these two were brought together and created incredible result is AlphaGo defeating a human Go player. Go is a strategy game similar to chess, but unlike chess, there are only stones, white stone, black stone. So using that, you have to conquer more and more territory. And this was considered to be a very hard problem to solve from the traditional machine learning perspective and from traditional if then also, because as permutation and combination keeps exploding, there are just too many possible directions where the game can go. But here, combining Monte Carlo, particularly Monte Carlo tree search, and training it over a deep neural network, the algorithm of AlphaMind was able to defeat a human being. Second kind of intersection between these two domains is published in literature by Savine et al. And it's called algorithmic adjoint differentiation. And this has reduced the time it takes to, note the risk associated with different instruments. Convolutional neural networks, multi-layer perceptron, backpropagation, these are all common terms that you will keep hearing. And so that is what generally I'm trying to bring your attention to. If you can bring together elements of both, then you have opportunity to make your own publication. Elements of both, sometimes they can be combined by doing dashboarding and putting the outcome of the neural network into the dashboard. Or you could even take one step further, like Savin et al. And they have done algorithmic adjoint differentiation where they are taking back propagation and putting it inside Monte Carlo analysis, so on and so forth. Moving. Generative adversarial networks are used to predict using images. They are used to generate new images. I'm giving this crowded slide intentionally because you are not going to read the whole slide now. You are going to go to scikit-learn algorithmic cheat sheet. And whenever your students take up any work, they will be able to start their journey by looking at this cheat sheet and get some idea. Is the number of samples enough? Okay, what are we trying to predict? Is it a category or is it a quantity? If it is a quantity, go towards regression. Okay, so attendees, write down cheat sheet in the comment box so that I can see some of you who are alert and active, so that you make it part of your internalize it. Whatever you write, it stays with you. So write it in the comment box, cheat sheet. Now, there are four broad categories in this. So you can see that dimensionality reduction, then clustering, classification, and so on. So you will get the links for all of this, no problem. You can find it easily. Scikit-learn algorithm cheat sheet. Very important starting point when you're actually applying deep learning or data analysis or deep analytics. Okay. So as a summary table, some of the things that were covered by Krunalji and Ramaya sir, you can put it in this kind of a brief comparison table. Okay. So intelligence, if we put in three categories: rule-based, task-centric, or multi-purpose. Of course, there are overlaps in all three categories. In modern applications, mechanical engineering overlaps with chemical, with electronics. So there is always overlap now in the real world. Still, broadly, if you are querying an SQL database, you will largely use if-then commands. Similarly, if the number of sensor nodes is few, you can also get away with if-then commands. If motion sensor detects people, switch on the light. Similarly, in dashboard, doesn't matter how many thousands or dozens of variables you are using to predict your outcome variable, you have to show only limited few graphs. So there also you have to use some logic that in the business flow, if this happens, then this graph is important. If that happens, then this graph. So there is some rule-based logic in designing the graph. So dashboard requires some rule-based logic. Task-centric, enterprise resource planning. The giant in this is SAP. And similarly, you may be in manufacturing, you may be concerned about your particular part of manufacturing, but if the overall resources needed to get the show running are missing, then your production will stop. Similarly, deep learning libraries are also task centric. Okay, one library or one set of libraries for one task. Most of the image based, perception based is done using convolutional neural networks. Similarly, there are specific libraries for natural language based interaction. Now, what is this blue prism and similar RPA? In the world of automation, robotic process automation is being used heavily now in industry to reduce the time on doing manual operations, drag and drops, entering into field. So you can even use some open source RPA tools to automate your own desktop to do some applications for you, operations for you. Multi-purpose is examples like Cortana, Google Home. So these things can learn from your behavior and give you answers that are more or less in the space that you are looking for. So if you give several queries to Microsoft Cortana or Google Home or Alexa for food recipes, and if you are using some ingredients, then based on that, it will predict whether you're a vegetarian. So if you say, give me a new recipe to try, then they will give you a more or less vegetarian recipe only, depending on your prior searches. So implementation in literature, Kauto et al. Have used portfolio public service based, procurement using rule based. Then for task-centric, Rubina Ghazal et al., they are trying to limit the amount of information each person can get basis what task they are supposed to do. And multi-purpose is, so example is by Yang Wan et al. There they are optimizing the production line so that waste is reduced. Now scalars, vectors, and matrices, very briefly I will cover because Krunalji has gone into great detail when explaining it. Just so we are on the same page, in a single quantity, scalar, quantity with direction, vector, matrix has a row and column. Vector can also be one row, column, one column, and so on. So tensors. Tensors were first proposed by Tullio Levi-Civita and Gregoria Ricci Kurbastro. In tensors, it is an object that is showing the relationship related to a vector space where there can be other vectors, scalars, or even tensors. Tensors are very important. They have been used often in physics and mechanics for stress, elasticity, fluid mechanics, moment of inertia. In electrodynamics, examples are in electromagnetic tensor, Maxwell tensor, permittivity, magnetic susceptibility. Okay. And in the applications, it is common to study that if there is some kind of occurrence at one point of an object, then the stress within an object can vary from the location to location. Okay, so this is one of the examples. Then you have the concept of tensor field. In many cases, tensor field is only called as tensor. So this is an example of using deep learning for creating a classifier that will put the mechanical parts into their respective category or bin or whatever packaging system you want. The idea is to be able to learn what is a bolt, what is a nut, washer, locating pin, so on. So what Tulakdar et al. Have done is they have taken 8 isometric view screenshots of the image and reduced it into 224 by 224 pixels. Then they have chosen a sequential CNN model so that it is it is very adequately documented. You can find several example of it in GitHub. Model selections CNN, then they've trained the model, the total data set. They have split into training and testing. Now after that they have evaluated the model, then they have tuned the hyperparameter, and then it is ready. So basically I am taking this example because you can reproduce it in your own setup. Okay, the data collection, you will see getting access to data is very challenging. Okay, no industrialist wants his private information to be in public generally in our Indian context. However, a lot of companies have taken small chunks of their data set and put it out on the internet through Kaggle, where you can go and take advantage of the data set that they're offering, run different models. Similarly, a lot of information is available through all these API calls that you can do. So what they have done is they have used the FreeCAD API. Okay, downloading part data of various nuts, bolts from various libraries on the internet, and then they have used the FreeCAD API. Now they have taken 238 parts in each of the 4 classes, and that equals to 952 parts. So in data preparation through FreeCAD API, they were able to take the snapshot, isometric. So if you are going to do deep learning of any kind, you have to be familiar or at least get used to using APIs to create your data set. Because even if you get data from industry, you need to tune it, change it, adapt it so that the neural network can learn from it. So here they are using this FreeCAD API. It is an open source, general purpose, parametric 3D CAD computer-aided design modeler written in Python. So you have to separate the images. You have to keep it in different folders. And you have to convert the images into an array. So pixel values turn into grayscale. Value of pixel values can range from 0 to 255. 0 being darkest or black and 255 being white. So then it is 255 shades of gray. Please type in the chat box gray if you're eager to voice your opinion. Yeah, so that I know we are all on the same page. Now, using this, they are making a 224 by 224 array, and the entire data set is a 3D array or a tensor of 7616 by 224 by 224 dimensions. That is 7616 number of images multiplied by pixel value of each image. Similarly, label data set has to be done. Okay, so you use these numbers, integers. For 0 colon, you write in single inverted commas whatever is your first category. For Tulakdar et al, it is locating pin. Similarly, 1 colon washer. Similarly, 2 colon bolt. 3 colon bolt. A nut. So similarly, you will have to classify it. When I mean the classify, I'm not talking about the actual machine learning part. I'm talking about segregating it into clusters so that you can train your machine. Okay. So model training. So the model is trained using the 7616 by 224 by 224 data input. These are the input X. And your Y is a label set 7616 by 1. All training purposes, you need to split the data set into training and validation. Training set is what the model will see and train on. It is an interactive process. Data from this is going to adjust the weights. Adjusting the weight is how the neural network works. Model accuracy changes once you change the data set. So since it can get to train over the same model, just like how a student gets to train over the same question bank, he gets a higher score. But in the actual exam, professor will give something outside of the question bank. And that is where the real challenge is. And that is how you have to make it work for you, that you have to keep some data that your model has not seen in the testing set. Testing set outcome is the real value, real accuracy indicator. So for validation, you need to see whether the data has the same distribution. We are creating data sets from the same FreeCAD API and doing the same operation, so the distribution is same. Model that is trained from training set, it will predict the data from the validation set. So 80% of 7616 is 6092 samples, and it is tested on 1524 samples, and that is how they have done the division. So in this example, in this diagram, you can see that, recall at the very start, I said that you can choose which algorithm you are selecting for your neural network application. But inside that algorithm, whether it is CNN or GAN, what each node is going to pick up as a feature, that we don't know. So that is why you need to have several layers so that it can get closer and closer to your desired fit outcomes. Okay. So some of the common layers inside a CNN, it is convolution plus pooling. Then from that you go to the fully connected layer, and from there you go into the classification. So as I mentioned, the division of the data into training and split. So what is this epoch word? Epoch is also called as a hyperparameter.